Welcome to Speak Out, Stand Out by Green Communications, where we're learning how to help our kids become better communicators. We believe our voices are the strongest asset we have, and our mission is to empower the next generation to use their voices to make a difference in the world around them. Whether you are a parent, an educator, or are just invested in today's youth, we hope this podcast will help you build confidence in our future, one voice at a time.
Welcome back to Speak Out, Stand Out. I'm Elizabeth Green, and today's guest is Nova Rose. Nova is a youth mentor and parent coach for neurofabulous families, teaching parents how to connect with their kids from the heart. She provides lots of different resources and expert insights for parents looking to feel more confident and effective, and also really works with neurodiverse teen girls to help them understand and love their neurodiverse gifts. So Nova, we are super excited to have you here and learn from your experiences and your expertise. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
So Nova, I gave you a little bit of a very quick bio of what you do, but how did you end up in this place where this is your mission? This is what your calling is, that you help parents in this way?
Well, really, I think that my overall why is really, I would like to fill the gap of what I didn't have when I was younger. And I'm not just talking about teenagers here, but really from a young age. I grew up undiagnosed with autism and ADHD, which was pretty much unheard of back then.
Yeah.
As a normal thing anyway. And so I just struggled through life with everything I did, everything at school, even home, conversations, socially was a struggle for me. And it dawned on me as an adult, as I started working through my stuff, once I had my own kids, that I didn't have that champion that I needed at that age. I didn't have anyone just going, you're perfect the way you are. Keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And that's the gap that I want to fill. And also from a neurodiverse perspective, I started doing tapping workshops. Tapping is EFT. We tap on your body to release emotion. And I started doing free workshops for the kids during the lockdown, the kids around here that were missing their friends at school. And they were a huge hit. I've had heaps of kids online. And what I noticed is that most of them were coming to me were neurodiverse. But what made me really sad was that they were introducing themselves to me by their labels. So they would say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I have autism. Hi, my name's so-and-so, I've got high anxiety. And that was their first introduction to me, was their name and their label. And it just broke my heart. Being on the spectrum myself, I've got two kids two kids that are on the spectrum as well. So I'm very mindful of how I'm teaching them. And I just felt so sad that these kids all around me were identifying themselves by their labels and instantly already feeling inferior because of this label. I've got anxiety. I can't manage my emotions. It was all so negative. And so my absolute mission is to flip that around so that they can see their gifts and not just see that they've got special gifts, but to help the world see this as normal and how normal these gifts are and how special and how to celebrate them. I like to think of it as flowers in a garden, right? You don't look at a garden full of all different flowers and go, oh, well, that one's different and that one's different. You just enjoy the whole garden, right? And you go, every flower is beautiful in their own way. And I want that for the kids. I want us to, if a flower isn't thriving, we change the soil. We move it to the sunlight. We do what it needs to do without even thinking. We better make a special arrangement for this flower. We just lovingly give that flower what it needs. And that's what I want for our kids, for us to just support them with the conditions that they need to thrive, with that being a normal, loving environment instead of it being special and different, which it is still at the moment. I think we're getting there. Society, I do think is getting there, but I just hope to help move that.
I think in the way that you described that with the garden, I think is such a visual and a perfect explanation. I think that I agree. I feel like we have learned as a society too. One of the things when I was a news reporter, one of the things we learned was that you don't say, autistic Stephen Smith right? It's always, the label after the name. Stephen Smith has autism. It's not that doesn't make him, right? He's still Stephen Smith.
Exactly.
And so I feel like we've started to change that conversation, but I love what you're doing with the neurofabulous gifts that they have, and really just flipping it on its head, that they might have certain challenges, but they have amazing gifts as well that they can share with the world.
Yeah, exactly. And by us just knowing how to tweak their environment, they can really thrive. But what you said about there with the labels as well, it's like they just experience symptoms of those labels. It's not who they are as an identity. Like if someone breaks their leg, you don't go, hi, this is broken leg. You don't call them by their symptom that they have. They just have, their body is experiencing a broken leg right now. And so I say try because I'm still learning the right wording, even myself. I experience ADHD. My body and my brain experience symptoms of ADHD. It's not who I am. It's just how I experience the world. And so even shifting how we talk about labels at all. And I hope my big world vision dream would be that we get to a point where we don't need to say the labels, because everyone is so unconditionally accepted how they are that it doesn't matter if there's names attached to it. But not quite there
that
yet.
would be amazing, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my dream.
Well, and so obviously we're talking about labels and the way we introduce people and the way we consider them or label them in verbal communication. So a big thing that you talk about is how our language teaches our children.
Yes.
And in some ways that maybe aren't quite intended, right? So let's dive into that. What does that mean? That obviously we can say that the color is blue, right? But they're interpreting so much more than just the words that we're saying.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And this information I've got on language isn't just for neurodiverse families or neurodiverse kids. It applies to all parents raising all children. And I think, as parents, obviously we want to do our best, right? We love our kids. We're looking out for them. We always just have the best intention to help them and help them grow. But sometimes our language and even our intention to help them grow may be actually harming them in an unintentional way. And it may be starting to help them grow neural pathways in their brain that are creating unhelpful, limiting beliefs for them, that they're not good enough. And of course, as parents, that's the complete opposite of what we want and what we're trying to do. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this, because I know from my own experience when I was struggling with my kids and then I started to learn all this, it's like, I'm doing it all back to front and I'm causing these limiting beliefs so unintentionally, when my intention is just to help her grow into, the best child ever. And so that's why I'm passionate about sharing it. And there's a neuroscientist down this end of the world, he's in New Zealand, called Nathan Wallace, and he talks about how if you push your child when they're too young, so for example, if you've got a 4-year-old and they're really great at writing their name and doing their numbers and things like that, how to be very careful not to push them, going, oh, they're really academic, and keep pushing them, because the scientific research shows that if you push a child under the age of 7 to academically do better, they will most likely develop anxiety and depression as an adult, and it inhibits their willingness to take any risks. And they've actually studied children all the way through. These are long-term studies from when they were young until they're in their 30s. And they can tell from these studies, the kids that have been pushed too much academically when they're younger, they're the ones that generally drop out, or they can actually figure out what pay grade your child will be on depending on how they've been treated when they're younger. They're pretty full studies. And so if you push your child, so for example, what I mean by that is if your child goes 1, 2, 3, then instead of going, what's next? What's next? We just leave it and say, well done. What you've done is amazing. If we go, what's next? What's next, and push them for the answer, we're building a pathway in their brain that says, oh, Mum thinks I'm not good enough because what I know isn't enough. And how amazing, I mean, how easy is that to do, thinking that we're encouraging them to grow, right? And to
Right.
become better, and we think we're doing the right thing. And actually the message that they get, and this is unconsciously reaching that, like it's going in on an unconscious level, is going, oh, my parents want more from me. I'm not good enough how I am. And so kids that are pushed academically before the age of 7 are much more likely to drop out of school and to have less of a, what we deem in our society, successful future based on money and job as parameters, than kids that are just encouraged at that age. It's like, oh my God, well done. That was amazing. You got to 3. Leave it. No pushing to the next number, to the next letter. But you know this, you've done this. Because while their brain is growing, they may show little signs of being able to do those things. But if we push it, that's when we start to cause unhelpful beliefs in them.
I've never heard this before. That is like mind blowing to me. And it's, you're right. Something we all do, right? We're encouraging them, or we think we are,
Yeah.
So that's so interesting to see that it's not helpful. It could be doing harm. Wow. Like I'm kind of mind blown by that.
Yeah, I know. And so was I. And that's one of the reasons why, and it falls so nicely into the rest of the work that I teach around basically mental health for kids, that I was just like, everybody needs to know this.
Yeah.
It needs to not be a secret. And also, we unintentionally, a lot of the time, program our kids to not trust themselves and to not be able to trust their own bodies. And this happens massively in the world of emotions, where, for example, we say, what's wrong when they're crying? Okay, it's such a normal thing. And I'm guilty of it myself. I'm not a perfect parent over here. No such thing. But by saying what's wrong when a child is crying, we are invalidating their tears or their reason for being upset, and we are teaching them that it's wrong to cry or wrong to have that emotion. And so therefore, as they grow up, that emotion is labeled bad. And that's how our society has evolved at the moment. If as an adult you feel a bit stressed, oh my God, I feel a bit more stressed than normal, I'm really upset. You go to the doctor, I'm stressed. Okay, all right, here's some medication. Is often, not always, but I'm generalizing here, but can be the thing, okay, that solves the problem because we must make that emotion go away. No, we need these emotions. They're healthy and they're here for a reason, and they're teaching us something that we need to know. We need to start being able to listen to our bodies again. Now, I know for myself, in the world I've grown up in England and in Australia, it's very much like, let's dull down those feelings. If you're sad, stop crying, don't cry, wipe away the tears, chin up, all of that. And that very much just teaches your child, I mustn't show my emotion. So I mustn't be who I want to be, which lowers their self-esteem hugely. So, and think about when we're talking to them in a playground. So a younger child, if you, and this was me as well, don't fall over. You're teaching them.
Always.
Well, the brain doesn't hear don't or do. The brain can't hear that. It just focuses on the thing. So the brain just knows fall over. So then they fall over and you go, I told you to fall over. So you're just programming them that they can't trust themselves. They can't trust their body. And they're going to have to listen to other people to be able to find where their trust comes from. So that's what we're unintentionally, all these beautiful parents, and I'm the same. I would do that all the time. I probably still do when I'm not being all aware and conscious of what I'm saying. But instead,
sometimes it's like saying, be careful. I've noticed lately how often I say, be careful as a mom of boys. And it's like, telling somebody to be careful doesn't make them do anything differently, right? Like, why do we say it? I guess we're trying to be protectors. We see potential danger and we want to protect them. But are we really doing any good at all by saying that?
Exactly. And those words, be careful, they send an unconscious message to your child's brain that you don't trust them as they're doing right now. They hear, Mum has to say be careful because she's not trusting me to do what I'm doing. And yes, I know they could be balancing on the top thing of the thing and You could just see broken legs in hospitals and everything coming up. But the message that they get is mum's not trusting me to do the thing. So we just can flip that so easily by just remember to trust your body right now. I can see you're having fun up there. Do you feel safe? So we can put it back onto them with just a tweak. So not stopping the fun. I can see you that looks fun. Are you feeling safe? Are you listening to your body right now? So bringing it back to them, to give them the control of their body back, and to start being able to listen to their body and trust their body. And even just saying that as well, I trust that you know your body. You know, instead of, well, fine, but don't come running to me when you're hurt. We can say, well, I trust you to know your body. Oh, same, guilty, 100%. So,
well, back to the, and I'm sorry if you're going to get to this, but I don't want to bypass the what's wrong section. Whenever you said by asking them that is not validating their feelings, what do we say instead? Because we obviously want them to know that we care, we're concerned, and we'd like to know more. What language should we be using?
So, really at any age, teenagers or young, it's really helpful first to validate their emotions, and also use their name, use the name of the emotion to validate it. So my daughter's Ruby. So, hey, Ruby, I can see you're really angry right now. For example, hey, Ruby, I can see you're really upset right now. So that's the first part of it. So by doing that, by using their name and naming the emotion, you actually switch off the emotional centers of the brain and start to switch on the thinking centers of the brain more. So it'll help. Not only that, it makes them feel seen and heard, which is what we all want in life. That's all anyone wants, is to feel felt and seen and heard. And so naming them and naming their emotion, and not trying to fix it, just, I can see that you're really upset right now. And then depending on the age and what the situation is, you could go straight to a what's up. So it's just a really generic, and this comes from a book by Dr. Ross Greene called The Explosive Child. And he uses what's up. And when I read that book years ago for my kids, and I adopted that as instead of what's wrong. And it's powerful because you can get to the answer. They can tell you what's wrong, but without you invalidating their emotions and letting them feel like my emotions are wrong. I need to try and stop crying somehow. Mum needs me to fix this because I shouldn't be crying. Instead, it's just like, I can see you're really upset right now. What's up? So it's just such a gentle tweak to what we're saying, but it doesn't put that negative in there.
Yeah, I never would have thought of this before ever, and I'm so glad you're sharing it. But it's such a tiny change, but if it makes a difference, and because you're right, now that I'm thinking about it, what's wrong sounds negative from the get-go, whereas what's up is neutral.
Yeah. And as you get into older kids that are starting to shut down and move away from you, you might get that at around 9 years old due to their brain development, and then again at 14. And the way you reconnect with those kids that have got, how we sort of go, oh, it's hormones, and they've had this big outburst. It's not always hormones. It's often their brain, the way their brain is development, and they've jumped back into their emotional center of their brain, and everything's about the emotion while their brain is growing. And so by naming them and naming their emotion and then just validating it. So, for example, hey, Ruby, I can see that you're so upset right now. That must really suck. I remember feeling that way at your age. So instead of, oh, don't be upset, it's okay, or it's not that bad, or let's fix it in some way, because we just love our kids and we just want them to feel better, but just sitting with them in it for a little bit, and that switches off that fight or flight that's happening in their brain. They're wanting to be upset, to run, to shout back at you, to be aggressive at you or whatever. It switches that off and will allow their more sort of sensible brain to come back online. So I guess what I say to the parents that I work with is just don't be so quick to jump in with the fix. They're not open to logic. This is specifically as well around that 9-year-old age and that 14-year-old age. They can't hear the logic. So you're wasting your breath anyway. So just, that sucks. I remember feeling that way at your age. You must be really hurting right now. And just leave it as that. And even that's a really good skill, just to practice doing that. Like, just make that your aim to practice. Today, I'm not going to fix. I'm just going to sit with it. And when they do feel more heard and seen by you in that way, you see it in them. Their whole energy changes. Their demeanor changes. They soften their shoulders. They turn more towards you. You can tell when you've said the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oftentimes as moms, I feel like we never say the right thing, you know? So it's like what you're sharing right now. These are like magic words that can make a difference, a huge difference with the communication. So that's amazing.
But very, very simple little phrases. But I think the most important thing, this is what I teach my parents as well, is don't beat yourself up if you get it wrong. It's so important not to go, oh, I got it all wrong. I can't say, it's practice. Like, I've been doing this for a long time and I still stuff up with my kids. I still walk in and go, like, squeeze down because I said so, I'm doing it my way, and we still have those moments where my kid's like, I hate you, mum. But the difference is I've got the tools now to repair from that and move forward, and I'm mindful of what connections I'm building in their brain. And so I'm mindful that I then choose language to help build positive connections that help them know that they're good enough and that they're good learners and that they're doing everything right.
Yeah. This is fantastic. I love it. Well, give me more. These are these are great things. Like, I'm taking those. These are things that I'm going to start instilling like today. I'm super excited about this.
So I guess the best way to teach our kids is to model it ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. So rather than teaching them to speak a certain way, is we just model it like we've just done, tweaks in the language, because they will pick that up. The way our kids learn best is just by picking up what we do anyway. And actually, really, that goes right through to about the age of 16 anyway. So, we haven't sort of lost them by the time they turn into a teenager. We do still influence them. So keep going. If you stuff up your words, just keep trying. Just keep going, because it's a journey that I don't think ever ends. Not until they leave home anyway. And I guess there's one way we can teach our kids, though, to become more confident and have more self-esteem in the way they speak back to us is with the art of asking questions, which has really been lost at the moment. So social media as well, social media is partly responsible, but it happens in the younger kids too, where I don't know if you've noticed how they tend to just talk in statements. We're living in a world of statements. So my son will come down and he'll go, hungry. He doesn't actually say, I'm hungry, please can I have something to eat? He just says hungry, dinner. They're just statement at you.
Yes.
And we're losing the art as a society. We're losing the art to ask the right questions. So it's something that I just make parents aware of. Notice if your child is a statement child and they're just talking to you in statements. Mm-hmm. And we can just gently start to encourage them to ask questions there. So, I'll get smart if my son just walks in and goes, hungry, or he goes, I'm hungry. I'll go, nice to meet you, hungry. I'm Nova, or I'm your mum. And I just get smart with it. Like, don't give him a bar, because what I know that he's asking, I'm hungry, will you make me something to eat? Now he's 10 now, so he can start making he can make his own stuff. So instead I'll go something smart like that, like, hi, hungry, or, and then it was just say it again, like, hungry, I'm hungry. And I'm like, okay, you've just told me who you are. That's beautiful. Is there something you would like to ask me? And so you can just prompt them to actually ask the question. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's so funny, because they stop and they're like, oh, okay. I try and think about a question that they have to ask. And then you'll say, will you make me something to eat? And then I'll be like, oh, I've got to finish whatever it is I'm doing. Can you make it yourself? Because I know that you know how to use the toaster and everything. Why don't you show me how powerful you are and make it yourself? That way you can make it exactly how you want it yourself. Oh, and then it's like, and then prompting them to, when he's like, I want you to make it. And it's like, I know you want me to make it, and not go to the next stage of the conversation without them having asked the question. So he says, I want you to make it. Okay, I know you want me to make it. So I'm not going, would you like me to make it? Jumping in with the question for him.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll say again, is there something you want to ask me? And then he's got the opportunity to ask me, would you make me something? So I don't want to give him the opportunity. I don't want to take the opportunity away from him, I should say, by taking the question away. So it's just gentle encouragement to move out of this world of statements that they're in, which I think is really important because they need to know how to ask questions when they're older, once they're, doing life grown up. At the moment, that art of asking good conversations is missing.
Yeah.
And so we can just gently teach our kids how to be able to ask for what they want. And it really builds their self-esteem and their confidence as well by knowing that when they're talking to someone, they have that ability to ask the questions that they want. And it can just start with simple things like correcting these statements, but not correcting as such, but giving them an opportunity to say more and ask the question. Yeah.
Creating those prompts. Yeah. That example you gave hit exactly home with me because that's a conversation that happens every day in my house. But I never realized, I mean, you're absolutely right. They're statement children, but I had never thought that they need, this is a skill that they need to learn, and who would have thought we need to teach them to ask questions? You're really opening my mind to things that I've not thought about before.
Yeah. And my understanding is that social media is making that more of a problem now than what it used to be, say, when we were kids or something. And that's because, it's all these little statements written online, things attached to reels and things. It's just a few words. So they are, a lot of what they consume is just a few words thrown at them rather than questions and thought-provoking sort of statements at those ages anyway, when they're younger. So it is a skill, I think, now that we have to be aware of to start teaching our children how to ask simple questions.
Those crazy things that we wouldn't have thought about before, but definitely will help them as they grow.
Yeah.
So this is great. Well, we are almost out of time, but before we wrap up, do you have anything else that you want to share with us? I'm loving every bit of this. Any other tips or strategies you want to share with us?
Well, I will just share one more thing before we go, which is what not to do. Okay, because we do often think we're doing the right thing, and sometimes we can do the wrong thing and not realize quite how much damage it's doing in terms of building unconscious, unhelpful beliefs in their unconscious mind. So with younger kids especially, firstly, no punishing as we go. If you the research shows, there is actually zero research to show that punishing your child has a positive effect. And the only reason we do it is tradition. And there's nothing to say that it helps. And the research does show that when you punish or correct a child, so even go, no, honey, it's this, instead of saying it this way, you should say it this way, that kind of thing. When we correct a child, we shut down their learning centers of their brain and they can't take in what's right. So you're completely wasting your breath by correcting your child or punishing your child. Now, that doesn't mean that natural consequences aren't important, but even giving them consequences like, if you don't do this thing, you'll lose your screen, that's just modern day punishing.
Yeah.
So it's still shutting down their brain. They're not able to see why you're doing that because their learning centers totally close. Natural consequences are different because that's just life. So, if you stay on your screen and then you miss your class, that's the natural consequence because you didn't get off the screen when I told you. So you missed your class. That's the natural consequence.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm talking about this is because it's so easy to just correct them without meaning to. So, for example, my son, when he was younger, he always called having a sore tummy, he'd say, I've got a tummy ache. And it was the cutest thing. But it's so easy to go, oh, you mean tummy ache as he gets older? Do you mean tummy ache? And correct him in that way. And when you correct a child, again, it's building those pathways that I've done something wrong, that I'm not good enough. and the way I'm saying is not right. So what we would do instead is just correct it in the conversation. So instead of saying, no, don't say egg, say ache, it's tummy ache, I would say, oh, you've got a tummy ache, have you? And just say it as part of the conversation that you're having rather than an actual correction. So again, that's just the tiniest tweak to not pull them up on something that they've done wrong, but just to model it differently or say it differently and model it for them to learn from you without it having become a negative thing that they're doing wrong as such.
Well, and that makes perfect sense. But okay, back to the no punishment though, and natural consequences. So there are certain things, like you said, like oversleeping and missing a class. What about a situation where they're just being disrespectful to you? They're talking back. There's not really a natural consequence that comes along with that. So what do you say to parents? How do we teach them that's not okay if we're not punishing them at all?
Yeah, well, there is a natural consequence because people don't hang around with people that are going to be rude to them, right? So, obviously it depends on the age because you can't just walk off on a 3-year-old. But, with the older kids, you can be like, well, I'm not going to be spoken to that way. So I'm just going to go over here now and take a moment. But what I would be saying as an overall thing is bringing it back to them, back to their bodies, and making them responsible for what they've said. And that's what we tend to forget at the moment, often just generalizing. So I would be saying things like, instead of making it all about you, because, that's hurtful, that kind of thing, there is a time and a place for those kind of conversations. But I would be saying, I can see that you've come out of your heart right now. Do you like talking to me that way? Is it making you feel good? And bring it back to them, to how it's feeling in their body. Now, if they're going completely off crazy, because I talk a lot about whether are you being captain of your body and captain of your ship? So are you being responsible for yourself and responsible for your body? And so then I would say, are you okay being captain of your body right now, or do you need mum to take over? And give them the opportunity for you to step in and go, right, we're going to go have some quiet time, or we're going over here now, or whatever that intervention needs to look like. But always keeping the language collaborative as well, not you've done this, you've done that. It's like, okay, I can see you're really angry right now because the way that you're speaking to me is not how we speak to people. I talk about standards. Just 1 second. It's early in the morning, it's just woken up. I talk about the standards in your house. The standards in the house so that we don't talk to each other that way. We have standards in our house where we're respectful to each other. So are you being respectful to me right now? Or would you like to change what you're saying? So always bringing it back to giving them an opportunity to respond and remember what's going on for them in their body.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then they're learning how to adjust in the situation, as opposed to just being told, no, that's not right. Because how often as adults we don't necessarily learn if somebody says just no, you didn't do that right. That's it, right? Well, that's not very helpful.
But as well, look, sometimes it gets to the point where you're just like, that's not good enough, right? And then you just throw something out there like screens down or whatever. Even just knowing, okay, that's not helpful and they're not learning anything from that, I can do something different next time. So you've got the option to just don't beat yourself up in that moment of, oh, well, I'm just punishing and that's what comes out my mouth. You can always change it next time. And I talk about making a plan with your child as well. So if that keeps happening, I notice that you keep being really rude to me at this time of day, or when you come home from school, you're finding it hard to not punch your brother or something like that, and come up with a plan. What can we do together? So always collaborative language, because you're on the same team, not what do you need to do, because then you're sending the signals that there's something wrong with them. So it's what do we need to do so that nobody hits anybody, because the standard in the house is that we respect each other's bodies. And so then you can make a plan beforehand with your child at another time when everyone's feeling good. They can come up with maybe 3 steps. I'll take a breath. If that doesn't work, I'll go and punch some pillows. And then 3rd step could be mum will step in, something like that. So you can actually make a plan with them beforehand and then remind them of that in the moment as well. And then see if it works. If it doesn't work, go back and tweak the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nova, I think this has been tremendously helpful. And I mean, very tactical things that we can implement today, which is so important. That's our goal. And our goal and our mission is to build confidence in communication skills. And that's exactly what you're talking about. All of it, it's about how we communicate with them, how we teach them to communicate, and growing their confidence in themselves to make decisions and to be the best people that they can be. So this is tremendously helpful. I know that you have lots of great resources out there that parents can find, including a cheat sheet that we can get on your website. Tell us a little bit about that.
So exactly the things that I've talked to you about today with those little language tweaks, all I've done is created a cheat sheet with some really sort of simple ones. I've categorized it into words, phrases that you can use that will build their self-responsibility and build their self-esteem. I've done another category of ways to reconnect with them if you're feeling that connection starting to disappear a little bit. How to manage when they've done something wrong, and also how to create space if tempers are flaring and it's all starting to get a bit heated, how you can create space in that so that you can think about what you're going to say next. And I've just done the cheat sheet because often we're in the moment or you don't know what to say. Even if you're stuck on the fridge or something, it just gives you some options, something else to say, instead of falling back on the programming, which may be unhelpful, of just do what I said.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it's for. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's fantastic. And you do coaching as well. So there's different ways that people can work with you. We'll, of course, link to all your social media and your website for that free cheat sheet. So I'm going to go grab that right now. And like you said, put it on my fridge. I think this was tremendously helpful. And I'm sure others are going to be interested in it as well. So thank you again for getting up so early. I know it's so early for you.
I'm wide awake now. I'm ready to go.
Ready to start the day. So again, really appreciate all your insight. That was fantastic.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are looking for more ways to build communication skills in your kids, grab our free mini lesson on how to craft a polished and professional speech out of thin air, along with 52 fun prompts so your kids can practice every single week. You can find that along with info about our upcoming public speaking and debate courses for kids at greencommunicationsedu.com.